But what about iodine? Is it really something you need and can't live without? The short answer is yes. The thyroid hormones T3 and T4 are named after the number of iodine molecules that they have. Your body literally cannot make thyroid hormones without iodine. Thyroid influencers will tell you that 97% of Americans are deficient in iodine. But is that really true? The thing you need to know is over 90% of hypothyroid cases in the US have nothing to do with a lack of iodine. Iodine deficiency used to be a problem, but it's not anymore. In the 1920s, the Morton Company put iodine in its salt to fix this problem. And to a certain extent, it worked. But shockingly, my research team found that when countries add iodine to their food supply, they actually end up with more hypothyroidism. This happened in Greece, India, China, and Slovakia. Because iodine is essential for your thyroid, but it's super easy to overdo it. The FDA estimates the average iodine intake in the US is 216 micrograms per day, and that's not including iodized salt, which is still very common. Data from 1999 to 2004 showed about 1/3 of US adults also get their iodine from supplements, whether on its own or in a multivitamin. Most people are getting more than enough iodine. The other sources where you're getting iodine are dairy, because dairy farms use iodine to sanitize the milking equipment, fish and seaweed, because most iodine comes from the ocean, trace amounts in produce through soil absorption, especially near the coast, and processed foods, which used iodized salt, especially in bread. And I was surprised to find these non-food sources of iodine, which include the drugs idoxuridine and amiodarone. Both contain iodine, and patients taking amiodarone have a higher risk of both hypo and hyperthyroidism. One standard dose of amiodarone has 45 times the recommended amount of iodine. So if you're taking it, be aware. So there's all this fuss about iodine, but if you live the typical American lifestyle, you're getting enough, most likely too much. That said, there are some rare people who lack a source of iodine in their diet. If you're eating like me, with lots of high nutrient, low processed foods, you might not have a source of iodine in your diet. That's why I take a low dose iodine supplement, not a multivitamin. I don't take those. For optimal thyroid health, we need to consume about 150 micrograms of iodine a day. Personally, I've been taking this supplement for a year. It's vetted by my research team for purity and potency. It's 225 micrograms, and I only take it every few days because the thyroid is excellent at storing iodine. If I go out for sushi or get another source of iodine, I skip it for a couple days. You really don't want to overdo it with the iodine. But what about seaweed? Why not just eat a natural source of iodine? There's nothing wrong with seaweed in small amounts, but there's a huge variety of iodine concentrations depending on which type of seaweed you're eating, and it's easy to overdo it, even with seaweed. In fact, Japan is notorious for seaweed consumption, and they also have a lot of goiter, which can usually be reversed if they cut back on seaweed. Goiter is an enlarged thyroid, in this case because of too much iodine. If you want to take seaweed instead of iodine supplement, just make sure you use this chart so you can get the right kind and the right dosage. So here's the bottom line about iodine deficiency. It's extremely rare in the United States. Most Americans are getting way more than enough. But if you have hypothyroid symptoms and you don't have a source of iodine in your diet, then a low dose iodine supplement could be enough to fix your wagon. That being said, iodine restriction could also heal your thyroid if you're getting too much. One study took 146 patients with a TSH between 4 and 20 with high urinary iodine concentrations and told them to stop eating iodine-rich foods. After a few months, their TSH levels went from 9 to 4.7 on average, and their T4 levels went up, which is great. So if you're eating a lot of iodine-rich foods or have another source of iodine like certain medications, consider iodine restriction as a way to heal your thyroid. Whether you're deciding to restrict iodine or take a supplement, you should still have your doctor track your TSH levels. But again, make sure you're taking a very low dose because a recent study really hammered this home for me. Researchers took 265 adults and split them into groups taking different doses of iodine supplements for 4 weeks. They tracked their thyroid function and found no hypothyroidism in the 0 to 200 microgram group, which makes sense because that's close to the natural amount we need. However, 47% of the participants taking between 500 and 2,000 micrograms of iodine were experiencing hypothyroidism, which is when your thyroid is too slow. In a 1998 study, Hashimoto's patients taking 250 micrograms of daily iodine had worse thyroid functions than the control group. Of the 40 Hashimoto's patients taking iodine, 7 had worse TSH levels, but when they stopped taking the iodine, 3 of the 7 went back to normal. That's right, taking iodine supplements, especially in high doses, can reduce or even turn off thyroid hormone production. The same is true of too much seaweed or iodized salt. Excess iodine can stimulate production of antibodies that can lead to both hypo and hyperthyroidism. So it's causing the same problem you're trying to solve.